Hi, my name is Linda. Thank you for coming to my capstone presentation. So I'd like to put you in the same headspace I was in back in February when I was first developing this project. To do so, I need to read you some statistics on global education. Well, actually, I should preface this by saying that I stumbled onto these statistics after I had a conversation with my dad about the differences in the education system of his home country compared to here in America. So Haiti's secondary education dropout rate is about 45%. Brazil's dropout rate is 30 to 40%. The United States has a dropout rate somewhere around 15 to 25%. You might think, okay, those numbers aren't too shocking, and like it's no one's fault but their own if students decide to drop out of high school. I mean, yes, that can be true, but so many other factors result in a student to drop out, ones that they might not even be conscious of. The relationship he or she has had with their education since they were a little kid will influence their outcome in higher education. The amount of encouragement and involvement with education they see from their parents and peers will also determine how dedicated they will be throughout their school career. And lastly, it's pretty apparent that economic factors greatly influence an individual's trajectory in education. So while I was researching, I realized how these statistics exemplify how education has affected the different people in my life and the different people in the community around me. The testimony of friends and family on the differences between the realities of life in a still developing country compared to the realities of life in this first world country has always stuck with me and has shaped my view of the world a little bit differently. There's an undeniable disparity in educational opportunity between these three countries. As I've explained, these statistics were a big source of motivation for me for my capstone project, alongside hearing the accounts of my friends and family I know personally. And being a TA in ESL high school classroom and volunteering for summer school for ESL children, I've gotten to see how education is much more impactful beyond just the strive for good grades. While learning this new language, these ESL students use it to try to understand and adapt in this new world and culture that they're in. While I rooted my project in this cause of providing quality education for all, it has many moving pieces. It includes aspects of business and product design, which I've always been interested in. I chose to sell hoodies with a custom design and have the proceeds go to the charity organization Save the Children. They embody the fight for quality education for those in vulnerable parts of the world. I decided early on that my design would be an outline of a hummingbird. My choice for the design comes from a folktale I heard from my dad a couple years ago, the meaning of which has always stuck with me. It's a story about a hummingbird who, in the midst of a big forest fire, flies back and forth from a nearby river, carrying droplets of water in her small beak to drop on the fire. The rest of the forest animals, they stand idly by, doing nothing. They question her, pointing out to her that she's too small to carry enough water to put out the big fire. She responds with, "At least I'm doing what I can, drop by drop." So, for my capstone project, I developed a sweatshirt with a hummingbird design with the slogan, "Drop by drop," and sold it with the profits going to a charity that is working to develop education in underprivileged countries. That was the first step, knowing what cause I wanted to connect my project to. I had been sure about wanting to design a sweatshirt because I felt it made the most sense regarding what people would actually purchase and use. Hoodies have become a popular clothing trend, especially for the promotion of brands. So next I had to decide how I would manufacture my sweatshirts and get my design printed on it. I researched different sweatshirt manufacturers and found that most factories would only make those sweatshirts in bulk. So I also researched the possibility of buying the sweatshirts and screen printing the design on myself. The art teacher at our school, Miss Shoquist, she showed me the screen printing system she had, but then Mr. McGrath showed me the custom ink website that had a feature of selling items for the purpose of a fundraiser. It was a perfect choice because it eliminated all the uncertainty that came with privately manufacturing. I wouldn't have to risk spending money on a large amount of sweatshirts that I possibly wouldn't sell, and I wouldn't have to risk messing up the design on a sweatshirt by screen printing it myself, and it also eliminated my need to ship each purchased sweatshirt myself. So I got to work on drawing my design and making it digital so I could upload it onto the custom ink website. The architecture and design teacher, Miss Todd, helped me digitally trace my hummingbird design, and she let me use her equipment. The last stage of the product development was to decide on which sweatshirt production brand I would use. Ms. Ferone and I decided it was important to make sure that the sweatshirt brand sweatshirt company was an ethical one because many clothing companies use unethical production methods such as child labor to make their clothing. I wanted to make sure the company I used wasn't known for that, so I picked Port & Company as a sweatshirt brand. They have no history of unethical practices and are a member of the Fair Labor Association. The very last step of launching my fundraiser page on Custom Ink was choosing the charity organization that is devoted to improving access to global education. While there are many, I chose Save the Children. They work in many underdeveloped countries providing resources for education as well as health practices. And they've been working to provide at-home educational resources to children in Italy, South Korea, and more during the coronavirus pandemic. In underdeveloped countries such as Jordan, where it hasn't hit as hard, they've been working to provide prevention methods against the virus. When the time came to launch my fundraiser, however, school had been closed because of the coronavirus. Quarantine did demotivate me a little bit because I knew that people might not be as willing to contribute now because they would have to focus more on their own well-being, financially and physically. Also, not being able to physically see my friends and teachers added to my lowered spirits because that was the biggest source of support that I had for my project. However, after a couple emails and Zoom calls with my capstone teachers, I built up the courage to launch my fundraiser. I set the fundraiser to be up for 4 weeks. I used my personal social media accounts to advertise the fundraiser. I also created a Facebook page for my fundraiser. By the end of 4 weeks, I was able to sell 54 sweatshirts and was able to raise $1,010 for charity. The great thing about doing a capstone project isn't necessarily the finished product, but all that you learn from actually executing it. My finished product was the sweatshirt I designed and the money I was able to raise for a cause that I care about. And although those are good results, the most impactful outcome of my project was what I was able to learn, not only about business, but about myself. From creating a product and executing a fundraiser, I learned from experience the importance of advertising, what is effective and what isn't. And most importantly, I learned more about the topics and issues I am passionate about and would like to further pursue throughout my adult life, specifically education. Once I had the sweatshirt picked out, complete with the design and the fundraiser page ready, I thought the hardest part of my project was over. In reality, it was more like the most tedious part of my project was over. There was still that month left where I had to actually sell these sweatshirts. I didn't know why I assumed that would be easy, because the reality is that not everyone is going to be as passionate about the same things you are, at least not all at once. Of course, people generally want all kids to have a good education, but it's usually not their main concern throughout their daily lives. Marketing was something I didn't totally factor in when developing my project. Never made a plan on how to advertise or who to advertise to. I kind of just thought, yeah, I'll post about it and I'll tell my friends and family, but posting about it doesn't ensure that people will actually contribute. So the first lesson I got from this project was plan more deliberately about how you'll advertise and reach more people. If I had maybe thought out beforehand different social platforms on which I could have shared my fundraiser, such as Facebook groups or local news pages, I probably could have drawn a little bit more attention and interest towards my fundraiser. It was only towards the last week that I spoke with someone from the MD Times, which gave me that last little boost that I needed to reach my goal of 50 sweatshirts on my fundraiser page. And while I did post about it on my personal Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, it wasn't completely enough to be effective in getting people involved. Which brings me to my second point. Advertising is only effective if you're consistent with it and target it to the right demographic for your product. To really get people's attention and involvement, you have to be consistent and engaging. I saw more results by telling my friends and family about it because I was able to explain to them why I was doing the project and why it was important. They felt personally connected to the cause and were more inclined to contribute. So, to sell products to people, you have to find a way to make them feel personally connected to it. Personal connection coincides with the fact that a lot of teachers contributed to the fundraiser. They understand the importance of an education more than most people. Finding the people who will connect the most with your product is an important aspect in advertising, at least in my experience, but I'm sure that these top-tier marketing execs will tell you the same exact thing. My product wasn't just the sweatshirts, but more so the cause of providing education to underprivileged children. My success in reaching my goal of selling 50 sweatshirts can really be attributed to the people who felt connected to the cause. If I could do it again, I'd advertise with a little bit more emphasis on the cause and charity, the Save the Children Foundation, to get more people to feel connected to it. I learned some marketing lessons from my project, but I think the most valuable lesson was the insight that I gained about myself. Usually in the last 2 years of high school, students start questioning what they want for their future, and it's normal to not know for a while, even after high school is over. I 100% thought that I didn't have any overarching passions like some of my friends who voiced on how they wanted to be like doctors, judges, lawyers, hairdressers, or work in fashion with such a conviction that it intimidated me. But up until these last couple of months, I had no idea what I really cared about. I bounced around different careers, not really confident in any of them. Working on this fundraiser got me passionate about everyone's right to a good education because it sets them up for a chance at a better future. Education can change countries. In science class this year, I actually learned that education is an actual scientific factor in the development of a country from pre-industrial to an industrial economy. So not only have I developed a passion for education, I've also come to realize that many aspects of my life point to this passion. Growing up first generation and having many friends and family account for the disparities of life in a still developing country has put into perspective the amount of people in the world who don't get to live like we do in America. I'd love to be part of the effort to ensure people's right to quality education, no matter where they are born, further equalizing the playing field around the world. I'm glad I was able to successfully carry out my project and raise some money to donate to the Save the Children Foundation. Alongside many other organizations working with education in vulnerable parts of the world, the Save the Children Foundation is doing important work that has tangible results for people who need it the most. I was able to incorporate into my project many different areas that I'm interested in, such as marketing, product design, education, and social work. I'd like to thank my capstone teachers, Ms. Ferone, who helped me a lot in developing my project, and especially Mr. McGrath, who did a lot for me in my project by always advertising it and helping me reach out to new people. These lessons I learned about advertising, how it's important to have a plan, be consistent with it, make people feel connected to the product, were invaluable as it came through personal experience. I'm glad that through this product, I was able to share with people the meaning of the hummingbird, which I think is a good reminder of our purpose as human beings in a society, to do the good that we can, even if it is drop by drop. Thank you very much.